Hello, friends. Welcome back. We're in pain. We have advanced forward quite a bit, like I mentioned we were going to at the end of the last video. What I really want to know is, how are you? Nobody ever asks that in these opening questions, do they? So, let me know. Alright, anyway. Here's the rules if you haven't seen this before. We have to play on the hardest asteroid. We have to play on the highest difficulty. We have to get every achievement. We can't lose any duplicates. We can't filter our duplicates. Lots of other rules, but the thing that we're dealing with right now is we do not, or rather we're not allowed to leave the starter biome until cycle 300. So we're still stuck in this little area trying to survive, and I think we're doing a much better job of it now. Look at how low we got this stress. Oh yeah. We have definitely got this taken care of. Actually, what's interesting is I feel like the extra bathroom breaks help a lot with this stress. This is a sneaky thing that I'd never really thought about before. But when a duplicant needs to like rush to the bathroom, their stress will raise quite a bit. Which definitely hurts in the long run, but look how low everything is since we changed our schedule. So, kind of an interesting consequence of doing something like that. I'm guessing we probably lose a little bit more productivity to them having to leave and go to the bathroom so much more, but for our purposes right now, getting extra water, which has definitely helped, and for lowering stress, it's done a great job. That was not something I was expecting as a side effect of this, but it's definitely good that it's happening. Let me pull up my notes here really quickly, just to see what we have changed here. So, our solar panels are still running. The top one is now at full power, and the bottom one kind of fluctuates here and there. I will eventually need to make a little bit better area for them to float around here, so I may, once we start getting out into this biome, I may slide this over a couple tiles so that the shine bugs can freely go up and down at this location and kind of shine more on this one. But still no complaints. My duplicates are basically never on the generators, which leaves them a lot of free time to do other things, which was a big problem earlier in the run when I had 3 duplicates locked down just doing nothing but generating power. So that is helping us a lot. I did mention at the end of the last video that we would be mining out all of the material that's very hot, or not very hot, just like a slight threat to our mealwood farms. So I did mine out all the stuff that I thought was a little bit warm. It's all been kind of sitting down here, and I've had my duplicates moving it little by little over to this pool of water. This pool of water has a lot of stuff in it. It's hard to tell, but there are gigantic piles of things in here. Actually, I need to get this out. There's gigantic piles of stuff in here that will help us absorb a lot of heat, and will help this water kind of stay at a more stable temperature for a while. So I do think that we're going to start thinking about getting some different heat management solutions going on here. So I think what I'm going to do is I researched aqua tuners, which are somewhere in here that I never remember. Here we go. I did research aqua tuners. I'm thinking we are going to start up one of those, and we're just going to cool a little bit at a time. I just want a decent amount of water just to be chilling, just in case we need to cool things down. We're not under any immediate threat here, and the temperature creep has really slowed down. So I'm not super worried, but I am a little bit worried once we start getting out on the map, staying productive as we kind of dig some of this stuff out. So I'm not 100% sure how we're going to do this, and I also don't really want to subject my duplicates to really warm water if they have to cross through it every once in a while. So yeah, we're going to need to think about how to do something like that once we start venturing out here. And we're going to need cooling anyway. It's not like we're really that under threat right now, but this creep will get worse and worse. This, in particular, this one piece of mealwood, is the first sign that we're generating a little bit too much heat, as it's right next to a couple of pretty heavy heat generators. So I think we should probably get that up sooner rather than later. I did want to answer a question, though. A lot of people have been talking about ethanol. Just to make it clear, I'm not avoiding ethanol specifically because I am banned from using petroleum generators. I am mostly avoiding it because if we were to refine it into ethanol right now, the problem is that the ethanol comes out at a super high temperature. So I know there are definitely things we could do to deal with that right now, but that may provide a little bit more of a threat than I'm willing to deal with. Plus all the extra carbon dioxide it'll put out. The polluted dirt would be kind of nice, but we also aren't really hurting that much for oxygen right now. So I don't know. The ethanol is potentially viable. I just feel like it's going to be more trouble than it's worth because of the high temperature that it comes out. We may use it eventually if we need a lot more liquid for some reason. And we do have a lot of lumber sitting around. I'm actually curious how much we have just kind of sitting on the ground. Yeah, 26,700 units of lumber, whatever that is. So there you go. I don't know if I've ever had a unit of lumber in my life, but I don't know, maybe. Alright, anyway, couple minor updates too. Something that I've not talked about before is if you're going to use lights on these machines, if you can find time to eventually put these on motion sensors so that they're not on all the time, that'd definitely help so that they're really only on when a duplicant is within range. So these duplicant motion sensors are just wired up to the lights. Pretty standard setup here. If you have that in your house, it's pretty fancy by the way. You can just kind of walk into a room and it turns on. Kind of the same idea. So yeah. Let me move this shine bug that got out for some reason. There we go. Okay. What I think I'm going to do is just put an aqua tuner down in this pit. And the whole idea here is we're going to be producing just a little bit of cooled water. I don't want to use all of this, and we have still kind of dipped down in here to continue our research for some things. So this is now a lab over here, which I think is going to get invalidated as soon as I put this aqua tuner in here. So I might rebuild this just a little bit. Maybe just put like a spot to get the water out here. So I guess I'll put a pump in too. And we'll just have this be a separate pool of water. The idea here that I'm going to use is you will effectively remove the hot water by using it up in the supercomputer whenever we need more research. So that's probably going to be my strategy here. So what we could do is any clean water we could just kind of store, and then this batch of water, as we warm it up too much, we could just then designate it as something that we use for research, then do a whole bunch of research and get rid of the water. It's going to make this area a little bit warm, I know, because it will heat up the supercomputer and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not that worried, and especially if we're deleting a lot of it, then we should be good. We also don't really have a lot of water to go around. We're trying to generate a whole bunch of it, but I do at least just want to have a collection of cool water here. So I guess we might need a second tank here. One of them can just be for cool water that is done, and the other one can be for water that is waiting to be dumped back into this pit. We can just kind of keep it revolving over time. Also, all the material in here will really help us absorb a lot of the heat, and I'm kind of curious how well that's going to go. So I will just get this all wired up and we'll get this going. There's not really a tremendous amount more to do besides that, so I'll be on the lookout for some other projects to do in the meantime. And we can keep going on some of those. I haven't gotten any stone hatches, so we can't start working on any of the other achievements. What might be good is to see... Let me reject these. What might be good is to see what achievements we could start working on right now so that we can at least get it done earlier. We don't have refibers, can't do that. We've already done a few of them on the Critter Whisperer, but we don't have access to most of them. Let's see. Probably can't do that yet. Super sustainable. I'm wondering how close we are. Still not really that close. Yeah, I guess we could do like a get a room one. We could cross that off of our list. We could distribute 1,000 kilograms of oxygen, but we need to clean it first, so we'll eventually get that one without really trying. Oh, another thing that I'm going to do, now that I'm being reminded of it. I feel like we have enough Morbs. At this point, we have 261 minus a handful of shine bugs that are in here, so probably around like 250. As we continue to grow, my performance is going to get really terrible. So I'm not going to be relying on these Morbs forever, but now that I'm done spawning them, I really could just delete all these outhouses for right now. And then my duplicants won't be tempted to use them or clean them or anything like that. And I'm going to slowly compress them all down into a small space that only has these gas pumps, because I do eventually want to use the gas pumps with them. But for right now, it's a little cumbersome. And this is a bunch of pretty high demand real estate right here that we could use for something else that's more important. So I'll probably turn that into something else, but yeah, I'll just be working on that. I'll start getting our aqua tuner up and good to go. When that's ready, we'll turn it on and kind of talk about it a little bit, but yeah, like I suspected at this part of the run, as long as we can stabilize on our resources, I don't think I'll be that worried about having a hard time with this. But I do at least want to keep some projects going and kind of keep this interesting. So yeah, I'll just be kind of doing that in the meantime. Well, as soon as I deleted all the outhouses, we got an achievement. So there you go. We have now replaced all of our outhouses and wash basins with the more fancy bathrooms. Definitely one of the most important achievements in the game, I gotta tell you. Alright, a little bit of a progress update. I was hoping that I could condense all of these morbs down into one spot by just pushing doors over to the side, but it doesn't quite work that way. For whatever reason, the first door that you place will never have any morbs get stuck, but the more that you place, they'll just start getting stuck in the doors. So I was hoping to just condense it all down to this one spot. Instead, I'm just going to use some critter traps, and while we're at it, I'm just going to move them way down here to the bottom at a place that's not really all that important. Because we're eventually going to hook these up to gas pumps anyway when we can push it with the amount of power that we generate. But for now, might as well just move them out of the way, and we can use this central area for more important things. So I figured we might as well just go ahead and do that. Also did move my power over just a little bit to hopefully kind of contain the heat spread. But the heat is getting worse as time goes on, so we're going to need to get our cooling up, which we have pretty much ready now. So I just have this on a signal switch to turn this on and off. The water that comes in is straight from the bathroom, so any extra water that the bathrooms produce basically winds up here. And then we can send that through the aqua tuner, and it'll come back out. I had a little bit of weird piping going on here for a second. And it'll come back out and go into this tank. This tank, we're just going to create a really basic loop of water, just to kind of loop through our mealwood to keep it cool, just so we don't suffer a heat death from not getting on top of that. So I'm just going to flip this on here really quickly, and we're probably going to start generating requests for duplicants to need to come over here and help us out with power, because aqua tuners really take a lot of power. I want to see how much water we can get cooled and what kind of temperature change happens on... We can just barely not keep this up, so I think I'm going to have to put down another wheel here. I'm just going to see what kind of temperature change happens in the water here, and then also how much all this dirt and coal and all kinds of stuff that we have in here is going to absorb. There is a lot of material in here that can absorb all this heat. And then this material doesn't really need to go anywhere. It can just kind of sit here. So you can almost think of it as like, imagine if this water was like, I don't know, 100 times more dense than it actually is. That should hopefully make it a lot harder to heat up with this aqua tuner. And we're not going to heat it to the point of steam because we won't have plastic for a long time. But I think, like, we just got a pretty good round of cooling off here. And the water temperature really did not change at all. So hopefully with the trickles that are coming in from our bathroom, we can at least keep enough cool water coming in to keep everything else cool. And then when this does not need to be ran, because there won't be water here all the time, you can see it's almost gone. We should just have duplicants hop on there for just a second. And yeah, now we can circulate this cool water. It's down at 19°C, so, you know, pretty decent temperature, I would say. Then we could just kind of loop it through our mealwood, so I'll just go ahead and build that out really quickly. Oh, the morb thing, I didn't explain that all the way. The setup for the morbs here, and the problem I was having is, like, if I was going to use critter traps to move them over here into this area, the problem is that I would already have, like, hundreds of morbs in this little area. By the way, look at the, like, stretched out morbs as they jump up and down here. Looks really funny. So I needed to create a way to actually set up a way to move morbs and then kind of drop them in the lower chamber. So eventually this will just be the one small chamber for all of our morbs. But I can't continue to ask my duplicants to move morbs here because the critter drop-off won't accept more than 40. So all we have to do is just deconstruct some tiles. And then once we deconstruct those tiles, the morbs will fall down. Which, let me rush this just for the sake of the video here really quickly. The morbs should fall down. If we need to, we can get all 4 of these tiles. There you go. Then we could just kind of drop them in. Yeah, just like that. Then we'll rebuild the tiles and we'll ask for more. So, yeah, it shouldn't take too long to move all this over. A little bit of an awkward setup. I'm also really glad that they changed these critter traps, because the critter traps used to require plastic, and they were like one-time use. It was a huge waste. Nowadays, they really just require metal ore, and you can reuse it several times, so that's good. So yeah, I'm not going to worry about getting every single morb down all at once. I guess I could, like, create some ladders so that it's easier for them to get to and from here, so, I don't know. Sure. But all we really need to do is just reduce the population that's up top here, so my duplicants will be able to bring more in. So once we rebuild these tiles, we'll be able to bring more morbs. You can see one of them's about to get deleted. There they all go. Yay! There. And then we'll get this last one in pretty quickly. Come on, I wasn't expecting them to do that. What are you doing? Oh, she's idle. Interesting. Can't remember the last time we had idle duplicants. Okay, well, we'll have to give them a job here in just a second. I'm probably going to seal this up, but I'm also tempted to vacuum all the air out of here first. I guess I don't really care that much because we're just going to close it all off. And we're just going to create another water drop here really quickly so that we can still get our research whenever it's time. And we'll just research with the hot water when it gets to that point. So I don't know when that's going to be, but I don't want to use this relatively cool water for research and waste it if we can generate hotter water. So, yeah. Hotter water. Yeah, so I'll just create a drop here. Let me actually cancel this and get the rest of that done. There we go. Now we can move more morbs over here because it's only at 22 out of 40 instead of the 49 or whatever it was. So yeah, we'll slowly get that. I'll build out our cooling here really quickly. You can see more mealwood is now under threat from all the heat that's coming in here, so yeah, just kind of getting a little bit of an issue here that we need to solve, but we should be totally fine. So I'm going to start... What the... Nice. I'm going to start getting that built out. Okay, we've got a slight issue going on here. That is that our food is really starting to drop. And it's not because of the cooling problems that we're having, it's because all of our pips started dying at the same time, because they were all hatched at the same time. So definitely an oversight on my part. So I'm going to start getting back to this egg micro to get these out a little bit faster. I have not been doing this because these have just been kind of like holding cells for more pips when I need them. But now we need them, so I need to get back on our egg micro that we were doing before and kind of keep these things spinning. Fortunately, we have the solar panels, so it ought to make the powering of this a little bit easier to do. Where are you going? Oh. I'm like, where are you going? I have no idea. You're just walking away. Oh, he's hugging the cuddle pip. Thanks. Alright, cool. So yeah, we're getting that done. Our cooling loop is almost there. I probably should have waited like another, 2 minutes for that to be done so that we could talk about both of these things. So I'll just rush that part. But the idea with this is we're just going to create some pipes that are connected to... Well, they come out of all the cooled water here. We have a good amount of 19-degree water. All it's going to do is kind of go through a loop of pipes here. Let me destroy all the extra ones. Going to kind of go through a loop of pipes, and then we're going to evaluate it once it gets to here, right before it's about to go back into the loop. If it's over a certain temperature, I'm just going to send it back through to where we get it back into our typical water network. It'll come back down here to be cooled, go through the aqua tuner, so pretty straightforward setup, but it'll be easier to see once we have it all working, so I probably shouldn't have been pausing there if we wanted to rush this out here really quickly. Let's get these eggs going just a little bit as well. So yeah, we are a little bit under threat of not having enough food to get us by. We do at least have some cuddle pips and stuff like that that we can kill if we need to. We could kill off a few hatches. We could also overly incubate some of these hatch eggs to get them out a little bit quicker. So there is stuff we can do, but that is definitely... If you have this many critters and if they've all been hatched together, like at the same time, definitely something to pay attention to. Where are you going? Come on. Go hug the egg. Okay, never mind. I guess someone else must be coming. So, okay. Do we have this done yet? One more pipe. Okay. So let's watch this happen. We basically have some water flowing through here. It's all just regular pipe. I don't really have the metal to use the radiant pipes. But as long as these regular pipes are going through tiles of some sort, they will eventually exchange their heat. It'll take a minute or two, but it's not too bad. So the way that I have this set up here... Oh, I need to set our thermosensor stuff here. If it's above, like, I don't know, 27, sure. Then we'll pull it out, and it will be sent down to... it'll basically go back through the water sieve, but clean water going through the water sieve doesn't really care. So the way I have this set up is, if it's not over 27, it'll kind of just sit here in a holding pattern, because it's going to prefer the water that's coming in fresh, and... or sorry, no, that's not right. It will prefer the water that's going in a loop, and the only new water that'll come in fresh is only if there's nothing else on the line here. So I've talked about this in like a piping mechanics video. Just a really simple way to set up your pipes so that you can prefer the direction of one side over another. But yeah, I want to speed this up so that we can see the whole thing in action. I figure we might as well do that instead of talking about it and then not showing the entire thing. So these should start cooling down here pretty quickly. The water that's in there will eventually exchange its temperature. You can see it dropping already, so it should get these mealwood back up and growing. And it's also like pretty good timing that we got this at this time. Otherwise, with all the pips dying at the same time and the mealwood being under threat, that couldn't have been a problem. Oh, I don't even have enough water to complete the full loop, so we won't even be able to see that. But anyway, as it comes across this, you can see it's sitting at 22 degrees. Up from the 19, so that means it definitely exchanged some of its temperature with these tiles in here. And it will get evaluated, and if it's allowed to pass, it'll just kind of go back through the loop. So there you go. And anything that is too hot will get pulled off the line and sent back into our water system. So there we go, pretty straightforward cooling setup. Nothing too fancy there. We can go ahead and get this sealed off now. And then whenever we want more water to fill up the tank up here, I can connect all of the piping and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm just gonna let this run maybe for another, I don't know, 10 or so cycles and kind of see how the temperature change happens. But I think since we overloaded it with all this material, it really should not get that hot, and we can get away with running an aqua tuner for a long time. So yeah, not too much exciting things going on right now, just moving our morbs and getting our cooling up, but at least we solved a problem that was on the horizon. If we start getting into more dire situations with our... Oh, this is still connected. If we start to get into more dire situations with our food, I'll come back, but otherwise we're just going to kind of see how the temperature changes happens from this cooling setup. Yeah, so I'll be back then. Okay, it's been a little while. Let's check in on where we left off here. Our water temperature has really only risen by like a degree or two. So that's looking quite good. I think our strategy of dumping a bunch of stuff in here to absorb heat has helped out a lot, and I really don't think that we're going to have trouble keeping this at a reasonable temperature, since the only thing we really need to cool is all of our mealwood. Kind of being on this super low-tech stuff for so long is helping us not need to create a lot of really complicated setups to solve these problems. So, yeah, that's working out. I've also emptied this room of all the morbs. The problem is that if I don't leave some of them here, the air pressure up at the top is going to start getting really low. So, temporarily, I'm going to grab a bunch of them that are in here. By the way, that's a really funny frame. I'm going to temporarily grab a bunch of them and just kind of put them in here and tuck them away for a little bit. I'll eventually move them all back to one location. But the problem is I can't really keep more than 40 in one room at a time. So I'll put 40 up here. If it's not enough, I'll put 40 more in another room. But at least it'll open up a big space here that we can use for other things. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to put here. I was thinking about... I'm just going to reject these, by the way. I just pressed the wrong button, but yeah. I was thinking about putting some of the rooms that we needed here to accomplish some of these achievements. So one of them is going to be this get a room achievement, which basically says get all of these different types of rooms and build them here. We'll eventually need like a luxury barracks and a hospital and that kind of stuff. I guess we could put them in here since it's a pretty available space for right now. But I'm just going to get the morbs all kind of settled in the new spot. And by the way, we do have a big tank that is filling up with pretty cold water here. So it's not like we just ran that one revolution of water through this and we're still at this low temperature. We've actually cooled a lot. So that's good. This will also give us enough water to set up our liquid locks and stuff like that for a little bit later when we start venturing out, which we will do soon. I'm also thinking about how much longer this particular video is going to be, because this section is actually a little empty. I'm having a little bit of a hard time finding things to do while we're kind of locked in here without just like inventing problems for myself. So because we're stable and because all this has gone rather smoothly, a little more smooth than I expected, I think I'm just going to finish up the whole Cycle 300 locked in phase in this video, and then the next video we will start venturing out of the biome. So I'll just kind of chill here. We'll get some other rooms built in the scope of this video. I do have some comments and stuff that I think would be worth discussing too, so maybe we'll do that while we're building out these other rooms or something, but I'll get the Morbs moved over there for now, which, by the way, you just need to use these critter traps to move them. Very grateful that they changed these, by the way, which I think I mentioned, but I'm filming this part on a separate day as the other one because this section has been so long. Anyway, actually, this is probably going to be better if I just put a couple of them down here. Might be a little faster. Although I guess I don't really care where we pull it from. We could put it in both rooms. And we don't need this one anymore, so deconstruct that. Okay, anyway, I'll get some of the Morbs moved. It'll be nice to be down to just one shine bug in this little area. Yeah, we'll see a little bit of change here in just a bit, but just going to be my duplicants manually doing all the work in the meantime. Okay, for now, our Morb situation is we do have a couple rooms full of 40 Morbs. I guess this one's at 38, but I don't really care about being that exact. So there you go. Just kind of got them redistributed around the base. Having them all at the bottom is what I want to do eventually, but I'm getting so, like, bored I'm, like, inventing projects for myself, because just running through all the things that we need to get done, we can't really research because it's going to spend our water, which we can't really spend. So someone did come up with a good idea to just kind of preempt a bunch of the research that we could do and just get all the researches except for the advanced research so that we can just get those faster when we can actually spend water. So in the meantime, I've really just kind of been thinking about what we can do, and one thing that I think we can do is we could use this space for rock crushers. I could just add a bunch of them, and the reason I'm doing this is because once we get access to the sand, I do eventually want to stop breathing all polluted oxygen, but the sand that's in here is very hot, and we probably won't have a really strong cooling setup for a while. So I can't really use this once we get it, otherwise I'm just going to overheat my base. So I do want a bunch of sand, and that's going to be something that we need for a while. So I'm just going to set up a handful of rock crushers here and get my duplicants working on that in this new area that we've freed up. So not the most exciting thing, I suppose, but there's really not a whole lot we can do, considering we are a little stuck here. And it's on purpose, of course, just to see if it can be done or what kind of threats that we would face. We are running at a slight dirt deficit, but it's to the point that I think we should be able to, you know, stabilize just fine in the meantime. These pips actually produce way more than I thought. Also, a whole bunch of our dirt is in here, so this number is actually probably a little bit more than half of what we actually have. So yeah, that was one thing that I wanted to mention. Another thing is turning off this shine bug reactor. Somebody told me that if you just confine these all into some area, all the shine bugs will turn off. The thing that I really would want them to turn off is the radiation, because I don't have a great way to deal with that right now. We could get some lead suits, actually, and somebody was talking about that too. So I guess we could research up into this, because all we need is lead and glass. So we could do that if we need a way to get in here and work. But I just wanted to answer why I don't know if walling these guys in with a door is going to be something that's super useful for me, because I want to turn off the radiation and not necessarily the light when I send duplicants in here, if it's too hazardous. So, let's see. There. They should all start turning off, but the radiation is still here as far as I understand. So, the radiation is really what I want out of this, and that's why building a door here, it's actually pretty funny to see. building a door here would only solve the part of the problem where I can't really see anything, but I'm not having that big of a problem working in here when I need to, so yeah, I just wanted to answer that comment and kind of demonstrate what it would do. The radiation is still a problem. So yeah, if I need to get back in there, I will probably get suits, otherwise the radiation in here is just out of control, and that'll be a big problem for my duplicants. This is actually collecting rad bolts faster than like a crashed satellite would, so it is very fast. We need more power generation. I forgot to bump these up in priority, so we're just losing all of our rad bolt generators here. So once we can get a little bit further along, I'll have a bunch of duplicants producing sand, and it's going to be... I kind of want to move all these a little bit further away than where they are, only because they're going to produce a lot of heat, and I kind of want to keep it away from my mealwood, even though we're holding steady on that, so I'm not super worried, but that is something that I think we definitely need to think about, so... yeah, that's what I think the plan is going to be for this. So I'm just going to be spending a bunch of time making sand, which is very exciting, and doing a bunch of preemptive research. For the meantime, there's not a whole lot of achievements that we can get. We can't finish the room-based one. Let me reject these, by the way. Can't really finish the room-based one because we can't build a luxury barracks due to not having plastic. So there's almost nothing that we could actually do here until we get further out of the biome. It's almost like they want you to leave your starter biome and do other things, but, you know, we just prefer to sit here and not do that. So, yeah, I'll just be busy making sand. And yeah, we're definitely going to finish up the 300 cycles in this video, because there is really not much to do. Behold, it has finally happened. Our hatches have finally laid a stone hatchling egg, which is what we need to eventually get into our smooth hatches, which we need for an achievement, but also because it'll help us refine metals at a better rate than we can with these rock crushers. So now that we have this going on, I'm going to definitely get that out as soon as I can, so that stone hatchling can start helping out with advancing us up like the tech tree, I guess, of hatches. So yeah, finally it happened. The egg chances are so low because of what we're having to feed our hatches, so I'm glad we finally got one. Okay, cycle 290. We have just kind of been chilling in here, making a lot of sand that we're going to be using here in just a little bit. Got a little bit more refined metals, growing our stone hatch population. We're basically just preparing to leave the biome at this point. So there's one more little project that I want to get done before we actually leave, which we will be leaving in the next video, just because this one's kind of gone on for a little bit longer than I would have hoped for, but I also didn't think that I had really enough material to make two more out of this, so yeah, that's why it's taken so long to release, too. It's just taken me longer to play. So what I think we're going to do is, here, I'll kind of go over the plan while I have the game running. I think we're going to leave out of this area, and we're just going to try to dig a straight line over as far as we can, just to see what's over here and to see what's interesting. We're going to be looking for a handful of things, but I think I'm going to cover that mostly in the next one, but we will be leaving out of here. One thing that we should set up is a way to ship all the material back. And usually I will have just like one central sorting area for everything, and I think I'm going to make it like right here. So that's going to imply that we have some kind of shipping system up, which we should have some of the research for. We don't have all of it. I may make an exception to not spending water in order to just get that one research that we're going to need for just some basic shipping. So I may get that. Tempted to get this too, but I don't know if we need it. Whatever. I'm not worried about how much water we have. We have plenty right now. By the way, I did create a couple more solar panels worth of glass. So once we can actually expand out here, we will take 2 more solar panels just to increase our energy output. But this area is just going to kind of transform back and forth between making glass so that we can dump it in this pool of water, and then into the rest of my research. So just kind of swap it out with the advanced research station, or I guess supercomputer, whatever you want to call it, like that. And then we can create a pitcher pump, and then actually let the water come through so that we can pump it out and start doing it. So we'll get the rest of our research there. But anyway, once we get our shipping system up, which I think I'm just going to have the central sorting area right here, one of the things we're going to need is a way to get oxygen all the way out to the edges of the map. Now remember, we're on a classic map, so this is a huge map for spaced out standards. I have no idea where the walls are because we are starting in an alternate pod location, so they could be on either side. We're definitely off-center in some way, but I don't know what's over here and I don't know what's over here. So I'm just going to pick one spot to go out. Go out on this side and kind of see what's there. But if we're that far away from the center, we already have a hard enough time keeping the pressure up just in this little biome. We're going to need a way to disperse oxygen around the map so our duplicants can breathe because we don't have suits for them to wear while they're outside the biome. So we're going to turn this into a little oxygen pumping area, kind of like we wanted to start earlier. But this time it's going to be better off because we actually have some power being generated. And we won't turn it on until we actually need to. So we will wait a little bit until we start getting a little bit further out here. Then we'll turn it on, make sure we have a system to replace any like sand that we might need to clean this oxygen. So basically the setup is going to be pretty simple. I typically will do quite simple setups. So we're just going to set up something like this, where we have a few rows of deodorizers, and then a couple of gas pumps up here at the top. I don't need this to be able to feed enough for my entire colony, just enough to kind of keep the pressure up over in these other parts of the base. So I'm going to get something like that set up. We're also going to need an auto sweeper, and once we get that, we're going to need to scrub somebody and probably assign them some skills. We have a lot of skills sitting around here. I've just been nervous to go up a little bit too high because of the high stress demands. But I think we can probably just bring one of these up to mechatronics to get this in. Actually, maybe both builders. I don't know. Whatever. We can scrub them if it becomes a problem. So yeah, we'll just kind of put both of them in mechatronics so they can get that going. And then we're also going to need this research to finish whenever we get there. Let's hook up our research station really quick. There we go. And then this will just kind of turn on and pump out the hot water. We have more water that will eventually get there once this tank fills up, so that we have a backup tank of water and then a backup tank of cold water, just kind of chilling. So this water production has really picked up by adding these extra bathroom trips that for my duplicants. And by the way, someone did talk about how they have done this challenge so far without using Morbs, and a lot of it did revolve around having the duplicants use the bathroom more. So that seems like a pretty hidden trick to doing some of the harder stuff like this without relying on Morbs, because I know a lot of people are bothered by that, but yeah, we've talked about that enough times by now. So this setup is really just going to be something like this, pretty basic, and then it's just going to head out to the places that we need it to go. So nothing too fancy. I need to be careful to not build through these tiles and ruin my nature reserve, so there we go. Just build it out like that, and then just kind of connect it up. Play a little xylophone music while we go. Whoops. And yeah, that's going to be it. And we will connect everything up to automation here. So I'm just going to put a signal switch. One signal switch is just going to be for the deodorizers, so I can turn those on and off whenever I need to. Then the other one is going to be for the actual pumps themselves. I'll just kind of put it like this. Nothing too wild or too fancy. But yeah, that's going to be kind of the idea. We may need to put this on our own transformer because it's going to be a little bit expensive, so we could probably just do something like this, I guess. Sure. And just kind of send it down. Well, I guess we could just split it right here whenever those things get connected up. So yeah, we're just going to create a little setup like this just to pump some oxygen out for us. We won't have suits. We won't be able to do anything fancy like that. But yeah, that's the idea. So I'm going to give my duplicants some time to finish this up, and then by then we will almost be done with that, and we'll be able to kind of check that off as one of the things that we have finished as part of this playthrough. So yeah, I'll kind of check back when we're right before cycle 300, and then we'll call this video good. Okay, right as we're about to roll over to cycle 300, we have gotten into our smooth hatches, which I'm really just going to only keep one or two, only because I am already so low on metal ore. Granted, we will be about to get more soon, but these pockets are still pretty weak, so there's not really a whole lot to go around, but I do at least want to make some progress toward that achievement. Plus, it's better ratios for refining metal than using the rock crusher anyway, so if I'm going to be needing it, I might as well just do that. We're about to roll over to Cycle 300. The updates on our shipping system, pretty straightforward here. Anything that I need to sweep, which I'm sweeping all my sand right now, just going to come to this dispenser and drop in the area. And there's an auto sweeper and a conveyor loader that's going to be supplying stuff so that the line for sand kind of runs down here and can be supplied into our deodorizers. So we're going to automate all that so we can save our duplicants some time. I'll seal all this up when we turn this system on, but for right now we still want it open so that these morbs can help out with our oxygen saturation in the base. About to be nighttime, we're about to roll this over, and we're about to call this good. Once we do, we will go ahead and kind of check it off of our list here, but we just gotta hang out through the night and do a little bit more micromanagement of stuff before we call it a day. So yeah, I wasn't really sure how this was gonna go. Being sustainable on just pips and hatches and mealwood and getting our cooling up and that kind of stuff for this long of a period, really had no idea how that was gonna go, but there we go, we did it, Cycle 300, so we'll just go ahead and kind of check that off of our list now. Anytime this appears in future videos, it'll just have that check mark because we don't need to worry about this anymore. So we are now free to leave this prison, and we will leave in the next video. I did talk a little bit about our plans, but we'll get into it a lot more in the next one as soon as I get there. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure when that's going to come up. This was a longer period of recording and getting this one done, only because I wanted to get this one out of the way. There wasn't a whole lot going on in the base unless you really want to watch my duplicants punch the rock crushers for a while and make sand. Which we needed, but it's not exactly the most interesting video to watch. Maybe that'll be a video you like fall asleep to. Duplicants punching rock crushers. Okay, anyway, I think we'll call that good. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I don't release new episodes until the previous one has come out. Or more specifically, I don't record episodes until the previous ones come out. So I read your comments, everything you post. Thank you very much for doing so. I'll see you in the next one. I don't know. All right. Goodbye.